Have you ever felt a lie before you heard it? A cold dread that seeps into a room, changing the very air you breathe. For me, it happened on a Tuesday night, the kind of forgettable weeknight that makes up a life. I was standing in the doorway of our bedroom, the one we'd painted a soft gray together, and saw my wife, Sarah, silhouetted against the blue glow of her phone. Her back was to me, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she angled the screen away from the door as if she could feel my presence. She laughed, a quiet, private little sound that wasn't meant for me. It was a sound I hadn't heard in months, and in that moment, watching the faint light dance on the wall, I knew. I didn't know who or how or when, but I knew my marriage was a ghost. The man she said was just a coworker would soon be at our front door. And the life I knew was about to be systematically dismantled by my own two hands. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. It started subtly, as these things always do. Late nights at the office, hushed phone calls she'd take on the balcony of our Chicago apartment, overlooking the dark, churning waters of Lake Michigan. "It's just Mark," she'd say, waving a dismissive hand. "He's a mess, going through a divorce, needs a friend." I, the trusting husband, the man who still believed in the vows we took on a sunny afternoon at the Botanic Garden, I just nodded. I'd make her a cup of tea for when she finally came inside, shivering from the cold. I was a fool, a willing participant in my own humiliation. The signs were everywhere like breadcrumbs leading to a trap. A receipt from a hotel bar on Rush Street for 2 martinis, found crumpled in her coat pocket. A client meeting, she'd explained, her eyes never quite meeting mine. The way she started guarding her phone like it was a state secret, its screen always facing down on the nightstand between us. The distance grew from a crack to a chasm. She became cold, manipulative, a stranger wearing my wife's face. She and Mark, the coworker, felt untouchable, wrapped in a bubble of their own arrogance and deceit. I felt myself breaking. The nights were the worst, lying awake, staring at the ceiling, the silence in the room screaming louder than any argument. I was a ghost in my own home. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I found her passed out, a little too much wine, her phone unlocked on the bed beside her. My hands trembled as I picked it up, and there it was. A whole other life, a universe of betrayal and glowing text. "Can't wait to have you all to myself," his last message read. "This weekend. The Peninsula. Our spot." My heart didn't just break. It atomized. The man I was, the loyal, loving husband, died in that moment. And from his ashes, something else was born. Something cold, strategic, and utterly ruthless. The game was on. I put the phone back, wiped the single tear that escaped, and started planning. My revenge wouldn't be a loud, messy explosion. It would be a quiet, slow-moving poison. I started gathering proof. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled old pro who'd seen it all. He was worth every penny. He got me photos of them kissing in a parking garage in Lincoln Park, holding hands walking into that very hotel, Peninsula, looking like the happy couple I thought we were. I opened a new bank account and began quietly moving my savings. I met with the best divorce attorney in Cook County, a shark named Ms. Albright, who smiled when she saw the evidence. "Oh, we'll do more than just divorce her," she said, her voice like ice. "We'll ruin her." The trap was set. The final piece was their arrogance. Sarah had been using the joint account for their little getaways, for expensive gifts for him. She was so sure of herself, so certain of my ignorance. The day of our anniversary arrived. I told her I'd booked a special dinner for us. She looked almost disappointed. "I have to work late, honey," she said, the lie slipping so easily from her lips. "Mark's team is in a crisis." "I know," I said, my voice calm. "That's okay. We can celebrate this weekend." The day she left for her work trip, I put my plan into motion. I had the locks on our apartment changed. I had all her belongings packed and sent to her mother's house in the suburbs. Then I waited. That evening I sat in the lobby of the Peninsula, a single glass of bourbon in my hand. I'd sent an anonymous tip to Mark's estranged wife, complete with photos and their room number. I'd also sent a little package to Sarah's boss. detailing how she'd been expensing her romantic getaways as business trips. At 8 p.m., just as my pie told me they were settling in, the fireworks started. I saw Mark's wife storm through the lobby, a woman on a holy warpath. A few minutes later, hotel security was escorting a screaming, half-dressed Mark out of the building. My phone buzzed. It was Sarah. Then it buzzed again and again. I ignored it. Paid my bourbon, paid my tab, and walked out into the cool Chicago night. When I got home, my home, the silence was beautiful. She showed up an hour later, her key useless in the lock, banging on the door. I opened it, just a crack. "What is this? What's happening?" she cried, her face a mess of tears and confusion. I just looked at her, the woman I'd once loved more than life itself. "It's over, Sarah," I said, and for the first time in a year, I felt nothing. No anger, no pain. Just a vast, quiet emptiness. The legal battle was brutal, but short. She lost everything. Her job, her reputation, her money. Mark's divorce left him with nothing, and he wanted nothing to do with the woman who had cost him his life. She was alone, just as I had been. Sometimes I see her, across a crowded street, a ghost from another life. She looks older, worn down by the weight of her choices. We never speak. There's nothing left to say. The city lights feel colder now, the silence in my apartment deeper. I won. I got my revenge. But victory feels a lot like being the last man standing in a graveyard. The end.